So I just used some more of my Ford Pass points to buy some other parts that I think are really a very good idea to have on a Maverick, or any vehicle actually, and that is the mud flaps, whatever you want to call them, that keep, particular for those of us that live up here in the frozen north where we get snow and whatever. And I really think the front are the most important, but road salt, especially mixed with sand and, you know, rock salt, slush, snow, and even just driving in rain after they put an inch or two of salt on the road and it's starting to wash away into a slurry. As you can see, let's see if I can show this. There we go. You can see there's debris, there's a little bit of sand and whatever that's been kicked up just from driving in the rain, and a little bit of dirt roads here and there. And that right there is going to sandblast the bottom corner of your vehicle, especially your doors. Probably cause them to rot and rust right along the bottom edge. And I found that putting a mud flap, especially on the front wheel, especially with a front wheel drive, but the front wheel in general, will save your door in the long run. And then I decided to also do it on the rear wheel, just because there's this big hollow up inside of here that there's a space, and there's like a metal shelf type thing inside of there. If you ever look behind your cubbies in the bed, you'll find what I'm talking about. And that's a place that salt is just going to sit on a piece of metal that has very little paint on it, and it's going to rot it away. And now the bottom corner of your rear side of your bed is going to start flapping in the breeze or rotting away itself. So I got these mud flaps and I'm going to put them on. I don't know which part number is which, but I'll let you see what they are. I'm guessing these are the fronts, they're a little bit taller, and those are the rears, because I know that the BA and the AA is really the only difference in the part number. The others are all, other parts are the same. Okay, so the AAs actually are the front, and they are the slightly smaller ones. The BA is the rear, and they are bigger, and they have the Ford logo on them, just in case you're wanting to know the difference. So you're going to start by first pulling out the stems here in these little plastic clips, and then with a screwdriver you can just pop them right out, because apparently you don't need them. So yeah, the instructions say remove them, throw them away, you're not going to need them anymore. Then what they want you to do, it's actually nice that they're putting something nicer in here than what was, is they want you to kind of peel back this, feels like felt liner that they use in the wheel well. This is an interesting carryover from the Focus, because you know, the Focus has the same thing. It works. I had that car for about 200,000 miles and that liner was perfectly fine, but man, did that look weird the first time I looked in there. And on these ears, you can see right here, coming off the quarter panel, they have some clip nut plates they want you to put on there. And you're just gonna push them in so they sit in the hole, so that when the felt is lined up, you'll be able to put an actual screw through that. And it's actually nice that they're doing this, because it makes me think they're not just going to fall off because the plastic clip fell apart. And once again, same thing on the bottom one. So there you go, and they just kind of sit there like that. I don't know if there's any particular orientation you need to be at, because it looks like they should just sit behind the felt just fine, like that, as long as you can line up the hole, get the bolt in correctly. And then of course just tuck your felt in so it's down good and tucked behind the quarter panel there again. And it is nice also to have these, because you're protecting this edge of the metal here. I've only driven this in the summertime. I've already got a chip right there, I think, from a rock. And as you can just imagine, the sandblasting that goes on, and another chip right there, that goes on from having sand repeatedly with chunks of rock and salt and everything else in it, just blasting against this, driving in slush. Okay, and then the next part is we're just going to take the obvious one for this side, which is that, and like I said, it's the shorter one without the Ford logo on the front. And you can kind of tell by the way it fits here how it should fit against the vehicle, because that detent will fit nice and firmly and snugly right around there. And now we're going to put screws in those holes right there. So there we go, they're just started finger tight, just to show where they are. But that's them. There's still a push type plastic plug, one of those cheapo ones that goes in the bottom one here, but obviously these two right here are the ones that are going to have the torque when you have stuff pushing and pulling against here. So, and they're going into real metal. I think that bottom one's probably just going into plastic. So it's probably better to put the plastic plug in the bottom first, because that's really what's aligning everything. This is a deeper plug than the one that came out, which is why you need to replace it. So now that that's lined up, you can use your ratchet and your socket to tighten this down. Now they say it's a 7mm, but I have discovered that a 9/32 socket, because being an aircraft mechanic, I don't have much in the way of metric tools on me all the time. A 9/32 will tighten that right up. So with the bolts tightened down, plastic plug in place, it's firmly held, it's not going anywhere, and it's going to protect against the worst of the salt and whatever that gets slung off the tires as I'm driving. Help protect that whole lower quarter panel and the door sills and the frame that's underneath that plastic from salt and all the other junk that gets thrown up, road debris, and even, you know, tar, crazy stuff like that that I don't want splattered all over my vehicle, paint from when they're painting the lines. Definitely something that you should think about, at least for your front wheels. I think on the Maverick, probably the rear wheels as well. One more part you got to do is back here on the underneath, there's this little clip you got to put in. It just helps stabilize it underneath everything and hold the inside corner of the mud flap to the felt liner for the wheel well. It's another interesting detail, but I think they actually thought that through pretty well. One other detail I might do something about is you can see how the plastic flexes just a little bit. That's going to happen with air pressure, puddles, whatever. And that little bit of movement is going to start to chief into your paint over time. So it'd be a very good idea to just pop these back off, clean this up really good with alcohol and whatever, and put some sort of an anti-abrasion plastic. I mean, I've actually just in a pinch used plastic packing tape, but that doesn't stand up long term. You actually want something that has UV stabilizing built into it, just to keep you from wearing through your paint right there. I could try spacing these out further, but I don't know if that would really help either. Just more detail to check into. Just looking at the general look, what the mud flap looks like compared to what it looked like before, which it might hurt my gas mileage a fraction, but some people don't like the look, but I don't like the look. My door sill's all rotted out and bubbling from rust.